Story 1. A brilliant friend firmly believes that the average adult man could defeat any adult whitetail buck in an unarmed fight. You could just grab it by the antlers and go dead weight. Their legs are so skinny that would take it down and then you could choke it out, he insists. Story 2. My brother believes that people with A and B blood types have either alien blood or blood from the people of Atlantis mixed with their ancestors. If you have a positive blood type, you're considered pure. I thought he was joking when discussing this, but he said it in a very matter-of-fact way. He is very smart but has some unusual beliefs. Story 3. He can only have boys because only his left testicle functions properly. It might be the right. I can't remember which one. He believes one testicle produces boys and the other produces girls. Story 4. The smartest person I know genuinely believes they can function on 3 hours of sleep and just coffee, as if they are some kind of enlightened creature. Story 5. Cows have horns because they need them to communicate. My dad has 2 master's degrees and could have become a professor. Story 6. My wife speaks 3 languages and has 2 master's degrees in finance and business administration. She believes basketball makes you taller and does not understand survivor bias even when it is explained to her. Story 7. I had a professor in the hard sciences with whom I conducted research for several years. One day, we discussed the installation of infrastructure for 5th-generation wireless technology, and I asked her about conspiracy theorists who were concerned about it. To my surprise, she told me that she, her husband, and their 2 children did not have Wi-Fi at home because they were unsure about the effects of Wi-Fi frequencies on people, and they did not want to expose their children to it. I thought it was somewhat unreasonable, but I felt compelled to respect her viewpoint since it came from someone I deeply admired. Circa 2014. Story 8. My wife is the smartest person I know, but she is constantly worrying about what I call worst-case scenarios. For example, she told me not to let our child walk down a street bordered by a wrought iron fence. Why? Because he might get impaled on the spear-like points at the top of the fence. Story 9. I haven't spoken to them in years, but I played Dungeons and Dragons with a guy who was close to graduating as a neurosurgeon. Listening to them discuss how masculine men only urinate while standing was interesting. Story 10. For some reason, my wife thinks I am attractive. I am pretty sure I have just induced Stockholm Syndrome. Story 11. A wonderful kind person I know majored in physics at a large university and firmly believes the Earth is 4,000 years old. He says it is a matter of faith and belief. He is so nice that I have never questioned him about it. Story 12. One of the smartest people I know is an engineer, business owner, multimillionaire, critical thinker, science lover, endlessly curious, and passionate about logic and reason. He categorizes all of this in a way that allows him to believe in Mormonism. Story 13. My aunt has a doctorate in psychology, studied biology, and owns a psychological book publishing company. She used to work as a psychologist. She tells me that wind turbines are powered externally to keep turning because they do not generate any power themselves. Story 14. I am a Caucasian female in my early 20s at that time. A highly intelligent woman, also Caucasian and in her 40s, was absolutely stunned when I told her I had a huge crush on a black gentleman who had asked me out. She was at a loss for words and finally told me that if we got married, it would be illegal. I was speechless and so upset that I left, thinking she was joking. No, she truly believed, likely influenced by a racist grandmother, that it was illegal. Thankfully, she no longer holds that belief. What is even more surprising is that her father was friends with several black musicians while growing up and still adores them. I have never been so shocked by the misinformation coming from someone who is so educated. To clarify, we live in Michigan, where the laws prohibiting interracial marriage were repealed in 1883, but perhaps weren't widely recognized until the 1967 Supreme Court case. Regardless, this conversation likely took place between 2007 and 2010, so it was far from being illegal. Story 15. My father-in-law has 5 college degrees and is a biologist. He does an outstanding job restoring nature, particularly in Yosemite. He possesses an extensive amount of knowledge about various subjects. He obtained all his degrees before the internet became widely available, so he knows how to conduct research much better than I do. However, he is a stubborn anti-vaccine advocate, a stance he has maintained for as long as I have known him. Initially, I thought he might provide some genuine scientific insight, so I asked him for information. Everything he sent me consisted of blog posts with few credible sources to support their claims. The few sources that were provided either misrepresented the information or came from disreputable sources. He argues that instead of vaccines, we should encourage people to adopt healthier lifestyles. While I agree that promoting healthy lifestyles is beneficial, it should not be seen as a substitute for vaccines. Story 16. My dad has a background in economics and an advanced degree. He believes that Kamala Harris having a 5-year economic plan was the definition of communism. Not that her plan was communistic. No, the very act of having a plan that lasted longer than one term in presidential office was communism. I feel like I should put some things out there. Yes, he voted for Trump. Yes, we fought because of it. Yes, our relationship is strained now. Yes, I am looking for every opportunity to tease him when he inevitably complains about Trump's policies, corruption, and general mismanagement by saying, at least he's not a communist, as dryly as possible, and then singing the hostile government takeover song. For anyone not familiar, enjoy the song. Story 17. God, but not in a way that suggests a belief in an omnipotent being. Rather, I wondered, if I didn't believe in God, what would stop me from doing terrible things to people? I just stared at him, confused for a while, unable to believe he was serious. Story 18. I had a roommate in college who was an excellent student and was pursuing a master's degree in physics. He believed the moon landing was not real. Story 19. A well-respected anesthesiologist in the operating room I work in promotes the Pizzagate conspiracy theory and genuinely believes Michelle Obama is a man. Story 20. Not sure if this has already been said, but my ex-stepsister-in-law, a general practitioner now in her 50s, fully believes that humanity only started 6,000 years ago as fully formed humans. She believes that dinosaurs and carbon dating are incorrect since humans were the first beings created when God created the earth. Obviously, she is a very religious Christian, but she is also a respected general practitioner in a liberal state. Story 21. The flat earth theory, the ice wall, and the stars are all considered false by many. Additionally, there is a belief that demons, rather than the Egyptians, built the pyramids. My coworker recently reminded me about the flat earth map. He had a large classroom-style wall map of the flat earth over his desk. If I can find the pictures we took during his leave, I will share them. Story 22. My father-in-law has a mathematics degree and is generally very intelligent, but he is a Holocaust denier. Story 23. It's not unreasonable that my friend is Christian. What is unreasonable is that he believes his interpretation of Christianity and the Bible is the only valid version, claiming that anyone who interprets it differently does so for personal gain and is destined for hell. Likewise, he asserts that anyone believing in any other religion is also doomed. This individual is now a practicing lawyer. I am a Buddhist, and I engaged in philosophical debates every night for about 8 months with my atheist friend. Eventually, we reached an impasse when I realized that I believed multiple forms of spirituality could be valid, while he believed only his viewpoint was correct. At some point, the discussions shifted from philosophical exchanges to him attempting to convert us to Christianity. In my mind, I wondered how one could hold a particular set of spiritual beliefs, justified only within that framework, and simultaneously claim that all other belief systems are false and that anyone who does not share those beliefs is wrong. I understand that many people think this way, but it truly amazes me to hear it from someone I once considered the most logical person I know. Story 24. I got a ride from a friend because it was raining, and I didn't want to ride my motorbike. I noticed the windscreen kept fogging up, and my friend would wipe it clear with a rag every few minutes. I asked why she didn't use the demister. She said it only blows hot air. I told her to keep it running. It would warm the window and stop condensation from forming. She tried it, and the window was crystal clear in a few minutes. I asked her how long she had been wiping the window. She said every time it rained. I then asked how long she had the car, and she said 3 years. We were driving to university. She was in her 3rd year of studying geophysics. Story 25. My adoptive father holds a master's degree in engineering and owns several patents in the motion control industry. Yet he truly believes that COVID-19 was just a hoax. Even my near-fatal experience with it was not enough to convince him that it was real. He claimed that doctors were just perpetuating the ruse and that I probably just had the flu. Story 26. I don't know about being the most intelligent in my life, but my mom is a registered nurse and still works in the health department. She became convinced that the COVID-19 vaccine would harm people more than just getting COVID-19 itself. So there's that. Story 27. My wife is a very smart woman. I love her dearly. She does not understand many things related to whales. She reluctantly accepts that they are mammals because they breathe air and do not lay eggs, but that took some effort. She refuses to believe that dolphins are a type of whale. When I explained that they are more closely related to hippos than they are to sharks, I think her brain exploded. I believe the issue is that she does not appreciate the concept of convergent evolution and how two things can be superficially similar but actually not related at all, and vice versa. She did not like the Wiglet Pokemon either and asked why Diglett now looks unusual. Story 28. When I'm relaxing at home, I'm usually wearing a hoodie and shorts. It's comfortable and normal. My partner finds this combination so illogical that he can't help but comment on it every time. He likes to point at me and say things like, "You forgot part of the outfit?" or "cold arms, hot knees?" I don't understand his issue. It's literally normal. Story 29. My wife, who has a Doctor of Philosophy degree, doesn't understand that thunder and lightning are part of the same phenomena. I made a mistake with a typo. They absolutely are part of the same phenomena. I dislike autocorrect. My beautiful and wonderfully sneaky wife edited the original post. I have learned my lesson. Story 30. I work at an engineering firm. Everyone I work with is an intelligent professional. People from all over the world have various degrees and years of experience in creative problem solving. These individuals are very capable. Yet, many are convinced by misleading information. They believe that global warming is fake while also attributing it to increased solar activity or nuclear reactions in the Earth's core. Any new unpopular policy that our large billion-dollar company implements is somehow blamed on progressive activists. Women's rights are seen as under threat because of transgender women in sports. They claim that fluoride in water is harmful. Some believe that COVID-19 was fake and that vaccines are more dangerous than the virus itself. Additionally, they treat Elon Musk like a demigod while dismissing the concept of electric cars as a joke. It is truly disheartening. Story 31. To not be an organ donor is a personal choice. Some believe that paramedics may not try to revive individuals in order to harvest their organs, and there are concerns that hospitals prioritize organ donation over patient care. While this perspective is extreme, it's important to be informed about the topic. Story 32. My educated, affluent, socially conscious, kind parents are both devout Mormons. They believe that my father is actually a wizard who can heal the sick with a special ritual he performs occasionally. The older I get, the wilder this seems to me. Story 33. Several wealthy business families in Asia believe in spiritual leaders and superstitions. Practices such as astrology are part of our culture, and it's true that we rely on them to an extent that the West questions. However, I am referring to beliefs like, if you want this project to be successful, you must avoid onions, garlic, and meat for 3 weeks. The donations made to dubious practitioners are astonishing. Story 34. Not the smartest, but in the top 5. Believes in government weather control, not cloud seeding, but rather the creation of hurricanes, and is anti-vaccine. Story 35. I was arguing with a friend of mine in college, someone I thought was one of the brightest people I had ever met. He provided an example to support his argument, and I realized he was mistaken and told him, "That's just not true." He replied, "Yes, it is. I saw it on television." My respect for him decreased significantly at that point. Story 36. My boyfriend is a genius. The most frustrating thing he believes is that he does not deserve to succeed. He constantly sabotages himself because he feels it is cheating whenever he excels at something. But when he struggles, He sees it as proof of being a failure and feels unworthy of trying. I love him so much. Story 37. The thing is, intelligence isn't general. Ben Carson was a brilliant neurosurgeon, one of the best, and strongly believed that the pyramids were used for grain storage rather than monuments and tombs. Steve Jobs was legendary at product design, yet he was convinced that eating fruit would cure his highly treatable form of cancer. The key is, once you acquire highly specialized knowledge and skills, you have to remind yourself how much you don't know outside your area of expertise. Otherwise, you'll get used to being the person with all the answers. Story 38. My mother is highly intelligent and a passionate believer. My husband is the smartest person I know, with an IQ of 187 and a doctorate in mathematics. He honestly believes that he is not intelligent. Story 39. My relative, who holds multiple bachelor's and master's degrees in various technology and engineering fields, believes that the government is always monitoring us and that the COVID vaccine contained tracking chips. Story 40. From every angle, I have encountered highly intelligent people who firmly believe in various conspiracy theories accusing officials or politicians of deception. In descending order of frequency, the moon landings never happened. Oswald did not kill Kennedy. Human activity has no effect on the climate. The September 11th attacks were orchestrated by the American government. Vaccines cause autism. I am not referring to unhinged individuals. These are rational, functional, and productive people who believe these ideas wholeheartedly. Help. Story 41. That Olympic equestrian riders are not more skilled than weekend rodeo riders. He says it's all about the horse and that he could likely make the Olympic equestrian team if he had their horses. Story 42. What is up with every single comment conflating access to education and academic accomplishments with intelligence? Of course, the PhD programmer is highly specialized and may not know much about anything else, but maintains the same ego and confidence. It's as if you have never interacted with these types of people. It's similar to Neil deGrasse Tyson, an expert in his field, but often puts forward ideas outside of it with unwarranted confidence. Story 43. A shocking number of doctors I have spoken to are clinging to ignorance on medical topics, even while the medical literature has been updated for years. For example, many did not realize that a ferritin level under 30 indicates an absolute iron deficiency. They still believe that extremely low ferritin is acceptable if the person has not yet progressed to what they consider anemia, which is the final stage of iron deficiency. Some doctors will not even test for ferritin. You can present them with medical journals and directives, yet they stubbornly cling to outdated definitions from their education. It is disgraceful. Story 44. My brother-in-law believes he is allergic to peanuts and mentioned that while he was eating a Snickers bar, he experienced an allergic reaction. Story 45. Their stage 4 breast cancer in the spine, liver, pelvis, and elsewhere is going to be treated with vitamin infusions and coffee enemas in Mexico. Story 46. People's height is determined by genetics, meaning everyone is the average of their father's height and mother's height. He was a successful businessman and great leader, but he was literally taller than both of his parents. Story 47. My friend still believes the 2020 United States presidential election was stolen, and he thinks evidence will emerge any day now. He is otherwise an intelligent person. Story 48. I have a friend who works at a high level in information technology, and he believes that left-handed people are homosexual. Story 49. My old landlord was a huge inspiration and idol to me. One day, I bought drinks that were themed after Apollo 11. His response was that the first moon landing was fake. I replied, "Okay, boomer." He is still a lovely person. Story 50. My friend truly believes that Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 was teleported out of the sky using advanced technology, which is why it has never been found. It's an intriguing theory. Story 51. Luckily, no one in my life believes in completely mad ideas. My example may not be as extreme as some others, but it still highlights a very misguided belief from a supposedly intelligent person. I had a very prestigious English literature professor at university who was seriously close-minded about any writing that wasn't classic, realistic drama. According to him, fantasy, horror, and science fiction are just for kids. Even now, I still hear from younger people, like my sister who attends the same university, that he's stuck on the notion that fantasy is solely about having fun and building lore, as if authors in those genres have nothing meaningful to say with their work. And this man teaches English literature. He clearly has never heard of Philip Pullman, C.S. Lewis, Isaac Asimov, J.R.R., Tolkien, Ursula K. Le Guin, George R.R. Martin, Frank Herbert, or George Orwell. Classic case of being educated without actually being smart. Story 52. My mom is highly regarded in her profession and holds multiple degrees. She claims that tilapia are not fish because they do not have bones. She refuses to say what animal they could be instead. Story 53. My uncle attended a prestigious college and earned his degree in biology. He then pursued a PhD, focusing on topics related to nature, such as biospheres and ecospheres. He can discuss concepts like Schrödinger's cat for hours. His favorite Pixar movie is Wall-E. He does not believe that humans caused climate change. Story 54. I know a woman who is currently pursuing her PhD in climate change. She is an environmental scientist and believes in historical conspiracy theories, such as those involving giants, similar to what Graham Hancock presents in his Ancient Apocalypse docuseries. Story 55. As exemplified in many posts above, religious upbringing is known to hinder otherwise intelligent people. It is easy to understand why. Religion and faith are intended to bridge the gap between practical evidence and instinctive beliefs. In this sense, faith can be beneficial. However, when the order is reversed, where one must believe certain things to prove their faith, religion takes a negative turn. Story 56. My boyfriend believes contrails are chemical trails, despite me showing him plenty of scientific proof that they are just jet fuel exhaust in the troposphere. He insists that he knows they are chemicals because he was exposed to them when his family lived near a now-defunct Air Force base in Washington state. His dad even told me they could taste the chemicals being released into the air as the planes took off. Story 57. My mom is a very intelligent professional accountant who still believes that trickle-down economics is actually good for everyone. She only recently stopped believing that former President Bush did not intentionally crash the economy. Story 58. My grandma used to refer to my grandpa as the dumbest smart man she knew. He was incredibly insightful mechanically, well-read, and extremely witty. He genuinely believed that the wind only blew from the east because the earth rotates in one direction. Story 59. I have a friend who isn't foolish and believes the moon landing is fake. I have a $10,000 bet with him that we will reach Mars in 10 years. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.